Welcome along to the How to Cut It podcast. Well, as we just said in the intro, I'm delighted to welcome onto the How to Cut It podcast, founder and creative director of the award-winning colour specialist salon Stil, Christel Barron Hough. Welcome along, Christel.
Thank you so much, Dom. Such a great pleasure to be with you. And thanks for having me.
Well, we have talked before, haven't we, Christel?
We have indeed. Yes, I know.
Back in episode 159, I was delighted to bring Christel on, and we really chatted about Christel's story. And as I say, I just gave a brief in the intro on Christel. But if you want more on Christel, go and check out that podcast. But today, really, this one's in collaboration with Wella Professionals, and it's a big topic, isn't it, Christel? Because we're going to be really going into consultations and how to get the best out of these. And I think the first question I would say to you, Christel, is consultations. Why are they so important?
Do you know what, Dom? Consultation is so important. It's really that opportunity for the hairdresser to create the wow factor, really, for the client or the consumer when they come into the salon. But it's something I think over the years that we often talk about, but we never really dive deep into why a consultation is so important. And very few manufacturers structure a consultation for the hairdresser as well. It's often left to the hairdresser to kind of figure out how to, lead a consultation and how to start it. And I think that's where this is so exciting, because consultation is key for our business, and it's something that we pride ourselves on. And we do 70% colour within our business, and the majority of our service is actually focused on consultation. So the fact that Wella is sort of developing this consultation program, I find is very, very exciting, because it's something that we're very passionate about, and something that we do day in and day out in the salon as well.
I mean, I find it absolutely mad. I know Wella Professionals done a survey where they asked various questions, but they actually said that only 41% of clients feel like they get a consultation from their hairdresser.
Yeah, I mean, that's madness, isn't it, really? But I think it's that thing, we're so fortunate in our industry that the aim always for a hairdresser when they work on the floor is to build a loyal clientele. And often, sadly, what happens is that you become very friendly with your clients. And due to that reason, the service level sometimes drops. And it's so important, even if that client's been to see you, for years or, once or twice, it doesn't really matter how many times or how long. The client should really receive a consultation every single time they come in, rather than saying, how are you doing? How was your holiday? How was your weekend? It's important that as hairdressers that we still lead a consultation to check, how's your hair? How do you feel about your color in every moment, and, every time the client comes in.
Yeah, because I think you just become so familiar with a client that you almost forget that they're there for their hair and that professional service, and that they want to still feel ideas are coming their way and to keep there. So it's not just about new clients. This is so important, I guess, Christel, to your regular clients that you may have been doing 10, 20 years plus.
100%. And I read somewhere that, I can't remember the exact percentage, but a lot of clients would leave you, not necessarily because they're unhappy with the actual colour service, but it's generally because of the lack of consultation or inspiration or advice that a client gets after a while. Because I think sometimes at hairdressers, if we're really busy, we can become a little bit lazy and sometimes a little bit shy when it comes to suggesting something different. So it's important that we, treat that client every single time they come in, almost like a new client.
100%. And I think what's really interesting on this is that quite often, people will be listening or maybe watching this and they'll say, well, I do a consultation and, a key part is, what are we doing for you today? Are we doing something different? But that isn't really what makes a great consultation. So what, in your eyes, makes a good consultation? What should that include?
Well, I think this is where Wella Professionals have got it so right, because they've developed something called a three-step consultation, and it's a similar approach to how we approach consultation at Stil. And that three-step sort of taps into different assessments along the way: identity, destination, and service. And all of those areas would have its own unique flavor, if you like. And I think the key thing with consultation is the communication. How do you open a consultation to really be able to assess someone's identity? And I think over the years, I mean, when I started hairdressing, I was always taught, I mean, this is a long time ago, it's 25 years ago, but I was taught to ask, what are we doing today? You know, how would you like to see your hair? Whereas for me personally, I think that's really putting all the responsibility back to the client. Whereas as hairdressers, if we take a little bit of ownership and sort of start that consultation by saying, how do you feel about your hair? How do you feel about your color? It just opens up the consultation in a very positive way, in an open question. The client then sort of gets the chance to tell the hairdresser how they actually feel about it. Do they like it? What's right? What's wrong? What's on their mind? And I think that's a real key thing. And I think in the step one of Wella Professionals three-step consultation, they've really captured that in the identity element of the first part of the consultation.
When you say identity, because some people may not automatically know what you mean by identity, because that can mean so much. So what do you mean by identity? So
I think the identity part there really is to assess someone's sort of natural complexion, the skin tone, the eye color, their personal style. And this is where the beauty really lies, I think, because that you can really dig deep on this. So there's so many amazing websites out there. There's so many different aspects into color that we can actually take inspiration from. And color consultancy is a great platform for that. So with identity, something that we do within the salon is we really assess someone's skin tone, for example, if they're a cool or a warm. And that kind of leads us into looking at someone's complexion. And that's really a very relative subject, I think, today, in terms of how light or how dark the skin is. Is there olive, gold, white complexion, Asian, dark? There's so many different variations of complexion, as well as looking at someone's eye color. I mean, that's really important as well, because the eye color in color consultancy will sort of determine if someone is a cooler or warmer sort of complexion. It also allows the hairdresser to see how light or how dark to take someone's color, depending on what level the eye color is. So it's kind of an overview. Identity is an overview of someone's natural complexion, the eye color, the skin tone, and their personal style as well. I think that's really important, because with fashion today, there's so many different variations of fashion, anything from classic right through to street, to grunge, to punk. I mean, it's endless, really, depending on how clients want to look and sort of express their personality. So I guess all of those elements sits within identity. And that's the first moment, really, that we kind of need to capture when a client comes in.
I love that. And should we be encouraging clients to bring maybe ideas with them? Because I believe what Wella are now doing with their Pinterest is capturing looks where they can actually find looks that they can bring along to this consultation. I mean, is this something we should encourage?
100%. I mean, that's all part of it. And I think once you've done that initial assessment, I think, of the identity, you've looked through suitability, skin tone, complexion, eye color, I think you sort of move on naturally to the next stage, which is the destination. And that's really just how to create that sort of perfect look for the client. And visuals are key here. And SoMe is fantastic for that, because it's such an amazing sort of platform where you can look at inspirational pictures and really encourage the client as well, I think, to sort of look at pictures and bring pictures in, because it helps with the consultation and the communication process. Because when you use descriptive words, my idea of red might be completely different to your idea of red. So having visuals as supportive consultation material is great, because it just allows you and the client to refer to different looks, and you'll know what you're looking at as well as the same interpretation.
I mean, this is already getting you off to a fantastic start, isn't it, with your client? I mean, if you're sat there as a client and you're really sat down, you're going through the skin tones, eye colors, then that destination.
Yeah.
Wow, where you really could be going. And I guess this destination, once you've really got all this information, then I guess working out the service that you're going to be providing for that client.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the service, I mean, we're spoilt for choice today, aren't we, as hairdressers? There's so many different things.
So are.
Anything from, classic techniques to freehand, creative. There's so much out there. And I think this is where Wella Professionals are so great as well, because they really support the hairdresser. And you can go on to education.wella.com for inspiration again in terms of content and what to create. And I think, again, if you look at different color menus, Wella Professionals have, produced a color menu, which will help hairdressers as well in terms of techniques, what's to work with and how to adapt different techniques. So I think the education and the materials are there for us hairdressers to use. I think it's down to us really to collate all the information, and we're very fortunate because all of this is free to us as well. So you really need to sort of research and source the different techniques, and then obviously adapt it to your clients, to the hair, what they need and what it is you want to create as well.
Yeah, I mean, these really will help customers feel really prepared, won't they, when they arrive at this salon for their appointments, when they're collecting all this sort of information and the mood boards. And once you've got that and you've got this service, so you've gone through those 3 steps, which sounds absolutely fantastic. But some people may feel, oh, this is going to be overwhelming. But really, this is about making it simple and easy to do as a consultation.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is where it's so great to have a program, because sometimes consultation can be daunting. You don't really know where to start or where to finish, whereas the three-step consultation kind of gives you a start, a middle, and an end. And it's a very easy format to use every day. And I think the beauty of this as well is that you can make it 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. As long as you include all of these 3 elements, then you're off to a really fantastic start. And the service part is really important as well. So obviously, Wella Professionals have color menus and services that you can actually use in the salon. It's really important to take responsibility over your consultation and what it is you want to offer your client. And often there's a little bit of a gray area with cost, but I think really, that your time is money. So it's important, I think, at the end of the consultation to give a quote to the client for what the service is actually going to be in terms of how long it's going to be and how much it's going to cost as well.
I'm glad you just said that as well, because I can hear our listeners sitting there saying, is this something that is just part of an appointment? So in they come for their hair appointment, or is this something that's done in advance? So this should be done maybe 2 months, a week. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think I can only really sort of go by what we do in our business. So at Stil, for every new client that comes in, they have to have a consultation before their service. So I think the consultation, you can look at it in different ways. I mean, if a new client comes into the business, then you really have the opportunity to give that new client the wow factor. So, the manufacturer's guidelines is for the client to be skin tested 48 hours prior to the service as a minimum. So however you want to book that, obviously to suit your column or business is up to the hairdresser. But it gives you the chance when the client comes in for the skin test to do a brief consultation as well, to really give them that wow experience when it comes to assessing identity, destination, and what service you're going to provide as well. And in return, if you create that wow experience, it actually creates client loyalty, because you're providing something different to the client that they're not going to get down the road or from a different hairdresser. And it also allows you as a hairdresser to upsell services and to upsell color, as well as working creatively with the portfolio, anything from Colour Touch right through to Coliston Perfect. So you really, that emphasis on consultation is so important because it sets you up to do something a bit different. But it also gives you that chance to communicate to the client how long the service is going to be and how much it's going to cost as well. And, you know, every business is different, but you could work out an hourly rate, you could work out, you know, half an hour rate. It just depends on how you want to structure it, really. But I think that's part of customer service. It's important to be transparent of what the price is going to be and just say, from what we discussed today, this is the length of time and this is the cost of the service as well. And you can do it, you know, a week, 2 days before. It just depends, really.
Is that how you would work it yourself, Christel, within Stil?
Yeah, absolutely. So for every new client that wants to book an appointment, we book the consultation, and then depending on which stylist it is, because we're very fortunate, touch wood, to be busy. So sometimes they have to wait 4 weeks until they can get an appointment. But it just depends. I don't think really that should sort of put you off. I think if you create that wow experience, then the client will wait. If they have to wait 4 weeks, then they will wait. If they can come in 2 days, then that's a bonus, I guess. Then that's you know, it's just a plus.
That's got to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about all of this is that how a good consultation can help grow your business. You know, you talked about, you know, client loyalty, but yeah, all of this can really make a difference to your salon business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Dom, that goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning. You know, sometimes as hairdressers, we get very comfortable with our regular clientele and we forget to give them a consultation. But if we just treat them almost like a new client every time they come in and ask that question, how do you feel about your hair? Come up with some suggestions, look at different services. You know, fashion changes so quickly and our job is linked to fashion. So it's important that we can offer new services and new ideas. And that's where it's so great being part of Wella Professionals as well, because not only do they have amazing techniques and color menus, they have a fantastic portfolio with new shades being launched regularly as well. And that's exciting for the client to be part of as well when you talk about new shade launches, because it gives you a chance to update their color or their toners, depending on what it is you're creating.
I love that. And what you're talking about in this menu is just putting a different spin on colours and the techniques. And that's got to be great for us as hair professionals in making our job just so much more dynamic and exciting. Not, you know, not just for the clients, but for us personally as hairdressers.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I think you just said something really, really important there, because as hairdressers, for most of us, it's a passion, it's a lifestyle. I mean, for me, hairdressing is a lifestyle. I love it. And because of that, I'm constantly wanting to learn or do different things. So for me, it's important to grow every day. And that's why I do a lot of research. I mean, I use the Wella So Me platform. I use the educationwella.com, because it gives me a platform and an area where I can research and grow creatively and personally. And it gives me content also to share with my clients, to update their colors all the time. And I think that's important. Otherwise, we end up doing the same thing and it becomes a bit boring. And in return, I actually think that the clients will probably think that their hair looks a bit boring after a while if you don't change it.
Yeah, keeping that freshness. Exactly. And the client is going to tell their friends how much of a wow factor they've had with their consultations, and that is going to so help grow your business as well. And the links that you're mentioning as well, Christel, we will put them in the show notes to accompany this podcast as well. So if you miss any of the links that we mention, we'll mention them on the outro of this. But there will be some clients that maybe say, look, I don't want to come in for a consultation before my appointment. What would you say to that? How could we deal with that?
Do you know what? I think that's okay too. I think when you have, if they don't want to come in for a consultation, they most likely need to come in for a patch test or a skin test. And I think every hairdresser has that opportunity, even if it's just a minute, to give a bit of a flavor of what the consultation could be and just very quickly ask, how do you feel about your color? You know, and from there, you can just very briefly talk about complexion and eye color and skin tone, even if they don't want to change it. But if you include it, even if it's just for a minute, it gives a little bit of a taster to the client what that experience could look like and what it could be. And often when people receive that, they sort of think, it's a bit different. Maybe I just sort of listen for an extra minute or so. So it comes back to that communication piece again, because communication is vital, and how we read client is really important as well. So it's not, you don't want to force it down someone's neck, but just sort of throw it in a little bit during a consultation is great. You don't have to spend 10 minutes on it. It could be a minute if you wanted to.
Yeah. Just make sure you get what you need, really tighten in on the points that you need to get to is absolutely key. And I think what is saying, again, as a hair professional myself, and sometimes you'll get a client who comes in and they're already booked in for a specific service, but how do you change that maybe to something else if there's something else that you think actually that could work, and how would you work around that issue?
I think that's another thing as well. As hairdressers, I think sometimes we get very scared about selling, and that's not what this is about at all. It's not about selling. It's about advising the client and also giving your professional opinion of what you think would be suitable for their personal image, their complexion, their eye color, their style. So sometimes it's small tweaks. I have loads of clients that don't necessarily want to change the overall look, but it could be changing the toner slightly. You might want to go from a beige toner to something that's a little bit more of a brighter Scandi tone, or champagne toner through to like an ice blonde. It could be subtle, small changes, which is enough for a client for them to feel different. So I think sometimes it could be the subtle changes. And I think, again, in terms of changing someone's image, it's not necessarily, we don't do it to earn more money. We do it to create something special for the client. And I think that's what we need to remember as hairdressers. Primarily, that's what we're doing. We're looking after someone's identity, their image, and how they want to be perceived. So often it could just be down to, have you thought about going a bit darker? Again, the beauty of having a great relationship with someone is that you could actually say, you know what, I've seen this amazing picture and I actually thought of you, and I think this would look amazing on your complexion and for your personal style. And often then clients would say, oh, that's great. Do you want to share it with me? Can I have a look? And I think a lot of the times, if you know your clientele, what you look for inspiration will often be what they would like or be attracted to. You wouldn't necessarily pick something that would be so far attached from their image. So I think that's key as well. But clients would appreciate that if you come with different ideas and looks and suggestions as well.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, that is a massive key point. It is not about selling. It really is about giving your client great hair, and that's what they're there for, aren't they? They want to be told these things are going to help improve the look of their hair.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes for all of us, doesn't it? It doesn't. I often think of like great experience when we go somewhere. If you go to a hotel, or if you go to, I don't know, where it might be a department store, if you receive something a bit different and bespoke to you, it often makes you feel special. And I think that's what consultation is. It should make a client feel very special.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I mean, I wanted to go through this interview without having to mention the word COVID, but a post-COVID world. And I mean, are we noticing clients' expectations of the types of service or services that are maybe changing in this sort of post-COVID world? Is there anything that you're particularly noticing?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Dom. And I think I think as hairdressers, we're quite tired of talking about COVID because we've had, been talking about it for so long.
I can't mention it, but we've got to. I know, yes.
But you know what? I think we're going to be talking about it for another year or two or so at least. So listen, it's here to stay with us for a bit. 100%. When we first reopened as of last year, there was a real change for us in our business because we had 50% of clients wanting something really colourful and bright and strong because we were coming out of, lockdown and people just wanted to feel lifted. Then we had 50% of the clients wanting to work with their roots, for example. So that was quite interesting for us, because then all of a sudden we had to come up with different ideas and techniques on freehand painting and balayage to be able to create low commitment services. So moving forward, I think that's constantly is going to evolve. And I think that's where it's so fantastic to be part of such an amazing brand like Wella Professionals, because their portfolio allows hairdressers to work creatively, classically, whatever it is that you need to create, because you have low commitment colors like Color Fresh, for example, or you have commitment colors like Coliston Perfect. It just depends on what it is you're looking to create. And it is slightly different now, because some people want something a bit more low commitment because they want to go longer in between visits. Some people want to look amazing for their Zoom day-to-day sort of work. So, and that's where retail comes into play as well, because they might have to refresh their color at home. So things are slightly different. And I think we have to take all of those elements into consideration. Whereas before all of this, we expected everyone to come into the salon every, 8 to 10 weeks, if not before. Whereas I think now we need to think about what can we do for the clients for them to look good in between at home, or what can they do at home to refresh their color in between visits as well.
Great. And again, all these educational tips, are loads of information out there, aren't there? education.wella.com. And certainly for these services in this sort of post-COVID world, I know they've got so much great stuff on there. Well, going and checking out. Now, you did mention it a little bit earlier on, and I know you've mentioned it sort of before, but your consultation has really helped drive your business, hasn't it, Christel? A good consultation. And, so for people listening, just drum home that, how a good consultation will, drive new business their way.
100%. I mean, consultation for us in our business is the heart of everything that we do. It's that communication piece, and it gives us that opportunity to create the wow factor for a client when they come in. And again, you need to sort of have a format to do that. And it's easy for staff as well to follow a format as well, and then it becomes quite consistent within a business as well, that everyone's sort of using the same template. And we would definitely tap into the 3-step consultation, sort of assessing someone's identity, and that gives you an opportunity as a hairdresser to really deep dive into color consultancy, how you assess someone's skin tone, complexion, eye color. And all of those elements will sort of guide you to what color to create for the client for it to suit their natural complexion. Destination, again, I think that's so important. That's the middle bit, really. Just so, what is it that you're looking to create? Use visuals here. And this is where you have this fantastic platforms that we've talked about by Wella Professionals, where you can go and look for inspiration and share imagery with your clients as well. And I guess the last bit really is the services. So how long is it going to take? What technique are you going to use? And this is where obviously you can go on to education.wella.com for inspiration. There's different color menus that Wella has launched as well. There's some fantastic actually services that you can use by Coliston Perfect Lights, and that's really interesting, I think, as a technician, because they really showcase different ways of achieving different hair looks, lighter and darker and softer tones, etc. So that really sort of rounds it up, I guess. And your services, I think, just be transparent with the client. How long is it going to take, and how much is it going to cost as well?
Yeah, and that 3-step consultation is done so beautifully, but so simple. And it's really good to get that consistent message with your team, isn't it, Christel, that you're all singing off the same hymn sheet, that brand identity that comes through, and the clients are getting that same level of service within their consultations.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? It makes it easy for you as a as a business owner as well, because if your staff is using the same approach, then it just allows you to work a bit more freely as well. Because if someone is busy, then it allows that client to perhaps go to someone else in the salon, because you know that they're going to receive the same consultation and approach, and you'll be working with the same techniques, etc. as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you go through this, we've done a great service consultation. We've gone through that destination, that service. We get to the end. It's really important as well on getting clients to rebook going forward.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think that's another thing as well, Dom. And I don't know if you ever felt like this, but again, if I look back on my career, I was always told you need to make sure your client rebooks, but I was never told how to do it. And I remember always feeling it was that clammy moment at the end of the service, thinking, oh my God.
So remember, absolutely.
I've got to take my client to reception. I've got to make sure she rebooks, but I don't know how to.
No, I don't.
But you know what? I think, again, we touched on it before, is that advice piece again. I think for all of my clients, I would always finish it off just, so lovely to see you. And I would just advise, with this particular look that we've created today, it would be great to see you in 10 weeks. Generally, it's anything between 8 to 10 weeks, but it's personal how you feel about it. But, I think it's important to let them know what you expect as well. The color will look fantastic, but in 8 to 10 weeks, you're going to see some roots, the tone will fade, and that will be the perfect time for you to come back and see us again.
And nobody's going to hold it against you for asking that.
No.
It's what I think clients want to hear. It shows a level of professionalism that's gone all the way through, with the consultation right through to that reception of rebooking. And I think the one sort of elephant in the room sometimes for hairdressers is that retail.
Yeah.
We all know it. Recommending retail to support that journey for the client and the business. I mean, what's your take on this?
100%. And you know what? It's, again, people, hairdressers think, oh God, I'm not good at selling, but it's not about selling. It's about advising. I mean, I genuinely care about my clients, and especially if they go through a big transformation, it's important that we actually take the time to explain the reason why aftercare is so important. Because if we go in and change the structure of the hair, it's important that we replenish the hair structure with goodness, and that comes through shampoos, conditioners, treatments, etc. And again, I think what we need to be aware of as hairdressers is that when the client leaves us, we've got to ensure that that hair is in fantastic shape and quality until they come and see us again. Because if they use aftercare shampoos and conditioners that's not necessarily suitable for the hair, it can do more damage to the hair. It can feel dry. But what the consumer is going to think, or that client, they're going to think it's the color service. So it's a 360 approach, really. It's so important. It's not just about great consultation and a great service. That aftercare is so important for the hair to look amazing in between visits as well. And I always talk about aftercare right at the beginning, because if you're suggesting something different or new, it's important that aftercare is mentioned then, because you might have to change the shampoo, you might have to change the conditioner or the treatment for that sort of service and look to look fantastic after 8 to 10 weeks as well.
Yeah, and we can't stress it enough. It isn't about selling. This is all about great hair for your client, and it's what clients want. And I think everybody loves to be told what's going to be great for them if it's going to help give the very best look. And I think we've got to get that notion out of our head that, look, you buy this, it's great. It's just talking about it, isn't it, Christel? And clients want to talk about products.
100%. And I think this is it, right? I think in the world that we live in today, we're so spoilt as hairdressers, because all the social media, the advertising is geared up for healthy hair, amazing hair, great, fantastic new products. Right. And really, that should work to our advantage. There's so much around us that really supports the message on retail and aftercare. But it's more about what the hair needs. And I think, again, it's a communication piece. You can ask, what do you use on your hair at the moment? And then talk about hydration, talk about strengthening, talk about shine. And I think once you've talked about it and you perhaps put the products in front of the client, at the very end, all you need to ask is, would you like to try the products we talked about today? Or are you okay for products? And it gives the client then an opportunity to say, yeah, you know what, I'd love to try that, or I'm okay, but perhaps next time. And that's okay too. But at least you've recommended and it's part of the service.
And it's making sure that you have a good retail supply of products there as well, isn't it, Christel? Because there's nothing worse than recommending and actually you haven't got those products sat there.
No, exactly. I mean, that would be the worst thing, wouldn't it? You've got to make sure. And you know what? I say this every single day to my staff. If it happens or not, I'm not sure. But they're actually good at retailing. But it's important to take the products from the shelf and put it in front of the client so they can see it, so they can touch it, they can smell it, they can read the label. I think that's part of the experience, really, just touching and feeling and seeing it.
And is it a big part of your business, retail?
100%. I think as with any business, we can do better, but it's a big part of what we do, and it's included in the consultation as well. Absolutely.
Amazing. Do you know what I've just loved about this whole conversation is we've just gone through the whole kind of journey from that consultation, but it all starts around that 3-point consultation that Wella Professionals is offering. And I think there's just so much that I've taken away just having this conversation. And it sometimes it can seem so simple, but it's not being done. And we've got to really see this through.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I think it's also taking that scare factor out of it as well. Consultations should be enjoyable. They should be fun. I think it should be a real positive experience for the client, but for the hairdresser as well, for them to be able to work a bit more creatively and freer, and for the hairdresser to get an opportunity to do something different as well, rather than leaving it to the client to let them know what they should do.
Brilliant. Well, just coming to the end really of this, Christel, and what is that takeaway then? Everything that we've covered in that consultation, what are the points that people just need to remember in delivering a fantastic wow factor consultation?
Well, I think the key things would be utilize the really, really easy 3-step consultation. Look at identity, destination, and service. And I think really emphasize on that importance with the clients, that time that you have. Create the wow factor. Talk through everything that you know. Ask the client, how do you feel about your hair? How do you feel about your color? Just to open it up in a very open and positive way. And lead them through the consultation. Utilize all the fantastic stuff that you have around you that Wella Professionals supports you with in terms of inspiration, education, portfolio. It's all there, really, but make it easy in a three-step way.
Lovely. And again, anybody who wants to go and check out, there's great amount of information out there, isn't there? As you just said, in terms of driving hair, in terms of education.wella.com, and the So Me channel, which is this a Pinterest channel? Is this Pinterest go-to mood board?
Yeah, that's correct. It's amazing. It's visually, it's fantastic, and it looks very similar to Pinterest, I guess, in terms of you can sort of look at inspiration sources, and it could be anything really, from color mixtures to techniques, however you want to use it.
Wonderful. Look, well, Christel, thank you so much. I can't stress this enough, but it's so always enjoyable to talk to you, and you just deliver exactly what we want. And I just want to say thank you very much for coming on to this How to Cut It podcast in collaboration with Wella Professionals. It's been a joy.
Dom, as always, thank you so much for having me. And you're such a professional, so a real pro. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well,